Hey guys, Ray here, and I wanted to do a quick video showing you how you can use some of the virtual sets that we have and how you can have some real fun with them and truly emulate some of the cool things that you might see on television. So I'm inside of Final Cut Pro. You will have to adjust how you do things based upon whatever video editing tool you happen to be using. But it's actually very cool and very easy to do some of this. It is a little bit render intensive, so be prepared for that. And what I've got here is I've got a project that's just kind of a blank project. And inside the project, I've got some random videos of beach clips that we're just going to use as kind of background video in here. I've also got a video of Michael here, who we're going to use as our actor. And then what we have is we've got some of the virtual sets. Now, these are actually Photoshop images. And so you can see there's a little layer button here. So I'll show you how we'll have to kind of mess with those to do some cool stuff with these. Okay, and we're going to put together a nice little video. So what I need to do is I want to break these layers up into something that's usable here. So for instance, we've got this Photoshop one here. It's got different layers in it, and we're going to double click on that, and it's going to bring this up into its own little window here. Now what I want to do is I want to be able to use these separated. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to copy these, and I'm going to bring them back into a more traditional project here. So I'm going to come back to our project, and I'm going to paste those in here just like so. So now we have these in a more traditional project versus working in the actual Photoshop document, which kind of can mess things up. If you're using After Effects, that'll work perfectly fine, but it's much easier to break up the document into an actual project here. So what we have is we've got two different layers here. Okay, we've got the desk, which is this one right here, and then we've got the background right here. Okay, and so what we're going to do is we're going to kind of create like a little puzzle here. And so what we want to do is we want to first of all take our actor, which is Michael here, and we're going to bring our actor into the project like so. We're going to drag him into the middle of all this. And you'll see he's absolutely huge right now. So what we're going to do is we're going to start off by cutting him out of the background. And the way that we do that is by adding an effect, the keyer, like so. And that's going to cut him out of the background. Now you can mess around with the keyer. You can spend all day trying to make that perfect. But for right now, that's probably good enough. And actually, it does look pretty good. And so then what we need to do is we need to resize our actor. And in Final Cut, I just click this button here, and I can resize our actor like so. Okay, and put him behind our desk. Now right there, he's enormous, so we're going to make him even smaller till he looks pretty natural. So somewhere right about there is looking pretty natural. Okay, and so now we've got our three layers here. We've got our actor in the middle of the desk and the background. Now you'll notice that we've got a couple of monitors here. So what we want to do is we want to do the exact same thing with our monitors that we just did with Michael. So we're going to select our desk here. Once again, we're going to use our keyer. We're going to key out the desk, and you can see the background through the desk there. So what we're going to do is we're just going to bring in one of these beach scenes here. And we're going to drag that once again, just in between the desk and the background somewhere. And you can see that's a pretty short video, but that's all right. For our purposes here, it's perfectly fine. So what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to resize this as well. Oops. Just like so. And obviously, it's a slightly different shape. So what we want to do is inside of Final Cut Pro, they actually have a distort tool. And in programs like Adobe Premiere, you'll find this as well. And so what we can do now is we can actually distort this to kind of fit into the actual shape of the monitor, like so. And there we go. And that way it's kind of got that same skew. Now we're going to do the same thing with our background here. We're going to grab our keyer, we're going to drop that in there, and you'll see it'll open up both of these. Okay. And so now we're going to take two other images here. So we're going to take two other videos, this one here. We're going to bring it behind all the video, just like so. And you'll see that it is full size, so it takes up the entire space here. So once again, we're going to shrink this down by grabbing, or actually we're going to switch this back to transform. We're going to shrink this down. Oh boy, having fun grabbing that, aren't I? There we go. I'm going to resize that like so. And we're going to bring it somewhere over here. And once again, we're going to switch over to our distortion tool. And we're just going to fit it to the monitor so that it makes sense. Just like so. And there we go. And so now we can come over and we can do the same thing in the other monitor. We'll grab another piece of footage. We'll drop that into the back again, just like so. And this time we will shrink it down and fit it into the other monitor. Let's bring that over here. Once again, go to our distortion tool. Now, if you don't have a distortion tool in your particular video editing program, you can just shrink it down so that it fits into the monitor area. It might be a little bit off, but you know, in a piece of footage like this, you're not even going to notice that it's off if that's the case. Okay, so now if we click on here, you see we're starting to put together a nice little clip here that works. I'll actually go back so we can actually see that because that's too short. In fact, we're going to take this and we're going to extend this out. Be moving slow, but at least it'll fill our space there. Okay, so now we're starting to look like a real studio here, but we need to add a few more things to this. So the next thing we're going to add is we're going to put a background outside of the windows here. And so I've got this one right here. I'm going to bring that in. We're going to drop that into the background here. And you'll see now we've got a nice view out the window of our nice background with the trees and the city in the background. And, you know, that one, honestly, that one doesn't quite work too well for this, just because it doesn't make sense that the trees are up here if the city's down there. But you get the idea of how this works. We've got a ton of different backgrounds you could always put in there from different scenes of cities and things like that to really make that work. But that one's what we're going to use for now. And you can see we've put together a nice little package here for our actor to be in a nice virtual studio. Now, there's some cool things we can do with this because this here is actually in 4K. So our studio is 4K, and that means that we can actually do some neat things with this. So in this case with Final Cut, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a couple copies of this just so that we have a little bit more video to work with. And since Michael's video is that short, we'll bring everything down to match that. You can see you kind of just have fun with this. It's kind of a neat little way to do things. We're going to space that out there. So there we have our actual video here. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to nest all of this together. Okay. And I'm going to do that by highlighting and hitting the compound clip button here. It may be called nest in your server. I mean, it could be called a few different things, but in this case it's a compound clip, but it could be called nesting. And what it's going to do is it's going to create one video out of this. Okay, so now instead of having all those layers, you can still double click this and it'll bring you back all of your layers, but now you've got one clip that you can work with on this. And the reason we wanted to do this, as I said, this is a 4K video, or at least the background is 4K. And so what we can actually do is we can simulate camera movement with this by simply coming over to the beginning here. We'll highlight this and we're going to choose a position and put a keyframe there. We're also going to do that with scale. Okay. And so now what we can do is we can move forward here. So let's say we move up a little over 10 seconds here. And now what we can do is we can actually zoom in on this to simulate camera movement. And we can also change the position a little bit, like so. Get us a nice little view, just like this here. Maybe adjust this a little bit more, give more of the monitor view. Okay, and so now you've got this nice zoomed in version of that same video here. And now if we play this back, and it's going to be a little bit slow, I'm sure, but you'll get the idea. We start to zoom in on them there. Just like a nice little camera movement. just like that. And so that gives us that nice subtle camera movement that you might see in a TV studio. In fact, that was probably pretty quick. We probably want to stretch that out, make it a little bit slower, but it gives you that nice feel of being in an actual studio with this. Now, some other things that we can do with this is if we actually go back to our other one here, what we can do is we can actually create a second version of this. So for instance, if we've got this one here or this one here, a different angle, what we can do is we'll open that up. Once again, we'll copy this. Okay. We'll go back to our video here, and I'm actually going to zoom out a little bit. And we're going to put in our video here. So this could be our second scene that we have. And so what we would do is we would do basically the same thing. We would take our actor and bring them into here, just like so. Drop them in between. And again, you want to adjust this just like you did before. So in this case, he was a little further over here, so we just move him like this to kind of match up what we had before. Again, we'll take our same videos that we already had. We're going to copy them and bring them in here. Just like so. And we'll use that distort tool once again. We're going to refit it into our screen here. And of course, we want to put our keyer in that so that we can actually see that. There we go. We'll put the keyer into our background as well. We'll add our little city background here. Once again. Okay, so now we're starting to build another angle for this. So once again, we'll take our video here. We'll bring this one back in. Oops, just like so. And once again, we'll resize that or redistort it by fitting it into the monitor again, just like so. And finally, with our last video, we'll do the same thing. Let's bring that over. There we go. And once again, we're just going to move that over to here. Actually, we're a bit off screen there. So what we're going to do is we're going to put this in here like this. And we're going to zoom out like so we can adjust this a little bit. There we go. Okay, and so now we have a second angle that we can use. So literally, you could start off by having the actor talk for a few minutes in this position here, and then cut to a different angle. And then from here, you can do that same zoom that we did before. So if you highlighted all of these and created a compound clip, you could then have this view zoom in. Now, one thing you do want to note is when you put these things together, if you're shooting the video, so in this case, we've got a pre-existing actor, so we can't do this with it. But if you're shooting a video beforehand, you can actually simulate the two cameras by having the actor turn their head to, in this case, to the right. So it looks like they're facing forward, but looking over to a camera on the right. And then on this view here, for the next line, you have them literally turn their head to straight forward and then shoot that as well. And then that way it not only cuts from one angle to another, but it actually shows the actor turning their head towards the camera. And it can make a really, really convincing effect. We actually did this the other day with a JV video that we made, and it worked very, very well. But I just wanted to go over how this works so that you can really see how to use these virtual sets to make some very cool stuff. Now, there's one other advanced thing I want to show you. And again, this is very advanced. but it's something that you can actually do that can really make a big difference. Now, we'll actually come to this one here, and you'll notice that this desk is quite shiny. However, there's no reflection of Michael. So what we want to do is we want to change that, and we want to add a reflection of him so that it looks more realistic. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a copy of Michael in here, just like so. So now there's two of him. Okay, and this back one, what we're going to do is we're going to go to the transform tool, and we're going to do this. Flip him upside down, just like so. And actually, we're going to have to move him up to the top here, above the desk, just like so. Okay. And so you want to figure out, see his arms are cut off there. So somewhere right about there would be about where the reflection would be. Now, obviously, he's covering the whole thing. So what we want to do now is we want to actually create a mask. Now in Final Cut Pro, it's very easy. We've got a mask tool. We can draw a mask. In most of the other softwares, you'll be able to find a mask tool in there. You just have to look around. Okay, so turn this off here. And now we can create some mask points, just like so. And so now you see he's on the desk here. Now we may want to zoom in a little bit to really get a good look at exactly what we're doing to make sure it really touches up on the desk there. So we want to hit it right on those lines. Just like so. We're going to expand that out. Okay. Now, of course, the desk is, it's got, it's not a sharp full reflection on there, so we want to mess with the reflection as well. So what we're going to do is we're going to play around with that a little bit by changing the way that the reflection looks and the way the image looks. And we can do that by coming in and either messing with the opacity, or we can mess with a few of the other tools that are in here, maybe some of the blend modes. So for instance, if we switch this from a traditional mode, we can try a few different things like darken, which is not really going to make much of a difference. We can do add, and you can kind of see it kind of gives a nice reflective area there, but not quite what we're looking for. So we're going to come in, we're going to put lighten and see if that helps. No, that doesn't do it. Screen might do it. So that's actually pretty good. You can see it kind of puts a nice screen into there, and it makes it a little bit more dull. Now you notice that we're actually going to expand this out just a little bit here, give us a little bit of room to play with. You'll notice that the reflection on there is not as sharp. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our actor that's in there, and we're actually going to add just a little bit of a blur to him here. So we'll try maybe the Gaussian blur here. Okay, we don't want it to be too crazy. See, that might be a little bit too unfocused. So we're going to come in and we're going to adjust that a little bit, just to give it a little bit of a blur, but not too much. Okay, and so now you can see as we move through here, it actually moves along with him. Okay, he's not moving too much, so you're not going to see it, but as he does different things, it'll actually mirror what he has there. And so it just gives it a little bit more reality. Again, you can continue to play with these, see if any of these works better than the other. Color dodge actually works pretty good there. Linear dodge, a little white overlay. So overlay is not quite going to work. Soft light. So you can play around with this until you get one that you really like. In fact, the soft light's not too bad. Hard light's going to be too much, I think. Well, actually, maybe not. That's actually not too bad there. And then, of course, you can still mess with other things in here. You can mess with the opacity and anything else that really you think makes a difference with that. But you can make a very, very convincing little reflection on the desk there that can make a big difference to your video. So just a little trick I wanted to put in there, and we'll go back to our full display view here. You can kind of see that it's got the nice reflection there. Just gives it a little bit more reality. And, you can play with this to your heart's content until it looks really good for you. But that's pretty good. And hope this helps you to use some of these virtual sets. You can certainly have a lot of fun with them and, really make some professional looking videos. So hope you enjoyed that. If you have any questions, of course, please feel free to let me know. I'll be glad to answer them for you.